Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going way back
Way back.
to the roots of genetics.
Yeah.
To the 1800s.
1800s.
To meet the guy who
So-
basically literally wrote the book on inheritance.
The OG
Right here,
Gregor
there's-
Mendel.
That's right, the OG geneticist.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating how he basically kind of stumbled into this whole field.
Right.
It wasn't a straight line to, fame and fortune for Mendel.
Yeah.
His path was full of
For-
twists and turns, which just makes his discoveries that much more remarkable.
Totally. And it wasn't all labs and pea plants right from the start.
Yeah.
We've got this whole stack of slides here, and
Yeah.
they really paint this picture of a guy driven by curiosity,
Yeah.
even when
Even when
life was throwing curveballs at him.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Born Johann Mendel
Yeah.
back in 1822
wow.
in what is now the Czech Republic.
Okay.
His early life was marked by a real deep love for nature, but also some pretty serious financial struggles.
Oh, man. So he was like this brilliant scientific mind,
Yeah.
but just couldn't make ends meet.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tough break. Right.
Yeah.
So to get by, he ends up joining the Augustinian monastery in Brno in 1843.
Okay.
And because Gregor,
Gregor? Okay.
when he enters.
Got it. So it seems like the monastery was like a major turning point for him, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about it. He goes from struggling student
Right.
to having access to this amazing library,
Yeah.
like a community of scholars,
Yeah.
the time to actually pursue his
Well,
interests.
right.
It's like the monastery was this incubator
Yeah.
for his scientific curiosity.
It's wild because, get this,
Yeah.
apparently Mendel failed his teaching certification exam
What?
twice.
Twice.
It's kind of ironic, right?
All right.
Considering he's known as the father of genetics now.
And the guy who cracked the code of inheritance couldn't pass the teaching exam. But you know what? It just goes to show that sometimes those setbacks
Oh,
can lead to
teach me.
the best things.
No, you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So the monastery, they send him to the University of Vienna.
To kind of brush up on his skills.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
1851 to 1853.
Okay.
He's immersed in physics, mathematics, natural history.
Not exactly. Genetics 101, right?
Not what you'd expect.
No.
But I feel like those fields gave him this really unique perspective to study inheritance.
Absolutely. It was like learning how to code before computers even existed.
Whoa.
He gained the tools to think about patterns, ratios, probabilities
Yeah.
in a way that no one else was doing at the time.
So he comes back to the monastery with this arsenal of skills ready to tackle the big questions.
Yeah.
But of all the things to study, why pea plants?
Right.
What was so special about those little green pods?
Well, peas were actually a brilliant choice.
Okay.
They have these super clear-cut traits, right?
Yeah.
Tall or short,
Okay.
round or wrinkled seeds, purple or white flowers.
Got it.
It was like nature was just handing him the perfect subjects.
Like choose your own adventure
Exactly.
for genetics.
So he could really isolate these traits,
Yeah.
see how they were passed down.
Exactly. And plus, peas are easy to grow. They reproduce quickly.
Yeah.
And he could control their pollination.
Oh, so it was like the perfect setup for him.
It really was.
This meticulous observation data collection.
Yeah.
So he starts these really meticulous experiments.
Yeah.
And what was so groundbreaking about what he was doing with them was he just playing plant matchmaker?
He was in a way.
Yeah.
He would take these true breeding plants,
Okay.
meaning they consistently produced offspring just like themselves,
Got it.
and cross them with plants that had the opposite trait.
So like a tall plant with a short plant.
Yeah, exactly.
So far, so good.
Okay, so
Pretty straightforward.
here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
When he crossed those tall and short plants,
Yeah.
all the offspring were tall.
Really?
Like the short trait just vanished.
So even though one parent were short, all the kids ended up tall?
Yeah,
You'd think they'd be a mix.
right? You'd think they'd be medium height or something.
Yeah.
But this is what led Mendel to this crucial insight,
Okay.
the concept of dominant and recessive traits.
Okay.
He realized that tallness was dominant,
Okay.
meaning it masked the shortness,
Got it.
which he called recessive.
So it was like a genetic tug of war and tall was winning every time.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing he didn't stop there.
Oh, no. This is just the beginning.
Okay.
Mendel's like, hold on, let's see what happens next.
Okay.
He lets these tall offspring self-fertilize.
Okay, so he wanted to see what was lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay.
What happened when those seemingly all tall plants had kids of their own?
This is where the real shocker came in.
Okay.
In that next generation, the shortness trait reappeared.
Whoa.
It was like a genetic ghost hiding in plain sight.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So even though those first-generation plants were all tall,
Yeah.
the shortness was still there, somehow just waiting to reemerge.
Exactly. And
It's crazy.
it reappeared in a very specific ratio.
Okay.
About 3 tall plants for every 1 short plant.
3 to 1.
3 to 1. This consistent ratio was like a major clue.
Okay.
It suggested that these traits weren't just blending together like paint,
Yeah.
but being inherited as distinct units.
These units are what we call genes, right?
Bingo.
Okay.
Of course, Mendel didn't use that term, that came later.
Right.
But he realized that each parent contributes 1 copy of each of these units to their offspring.
So it's like a genetic lottery.
Yeah.
You get 1 ticket from mom, 1 ticket from dad.
Exactly.
And that combination determines your traits.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, go.
Now, based on these observations, Mendel developed his first law of inheritance,
Okay.
the law of segregation.
All right, before we get too deep into the technical stuff, I think we need to take a quick break. We've covered a lot already. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. We'll be back in a flash to unpack those laws and see how Mendel's work went from pea plants to revolutionizing like entire fields of science.
Sounds good.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were really getting into
The nitty-gritty.
a nitty-gritty, of Mendel's pea plant experiments.
There's those pea plants.
And it's like he was this genetic matchmaker, just crossing plants with different traits just to see what would happen.
Absolutely.
It's like a botanical soap opera
It is.
with all these hidden secrets waiting to be revealed.
All those secrets, yeah. They led to his groundbreaking laws of inheritance, which
Right.
we were just about to dive into that first one, the law of segregation.
Okay, so refresh my memory. What does this law actually say? And like, why is it so important?
In the simplest terms, the law of segregation says that each parent plant has 2 copies of each gene,
Okay.
but only 1 copy gets passed down to each offspring.
Okay.
It's like a coin flip heads. You get one version, tails, you get the other.
So it's random which gene gets passed on.
Totally random.
But how does that explain those, like, vanishing traits that we talked about before? Like, when Mendel crossed the tall and short plants,
Yeah.
all the offspring were tall.
Right, because it all comes back to those dominant and recessive genes.
Okay.
Remember, the tall trait was dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So even if an offspring inherited the gene for shortness from one parent,
Okay.
the tall gene from the other parent would always mask it.
So it's like that short gene was still there,
It was still there,
just hidden.
like a recessive ninja.
Like a recessive ninja just waiting for the right moment
Exactly,
to
to
strike. or
waiting to
snap.
strike.
So when did that happen?
Well, that happened when those tall offspring reproduced.
Okay.
Remember, each parent contributes 1 copy of the gene.
Right.
So there is a chance that 2 short genes could pair up in the next generation,
Mm-hmm.
allowing that short trait to reappear.
So it's like that gene was playing the long game.
It was.
It was biding its time until it could finally express itself.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the law of segregation.
Oh, okay.
It explains how these recessive traits can skip a generation,
Right.
seemingly disappearing and then reappearing out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's all about those hidden genetic combinations.
It is. It's all about the combination.
This is where it starts to feel less like botany and more like a detective novel.
I know, right?
So one mystery solved,
Yes.
recessive traits.
Solved. But Mendel didn't stop there.
Of course not.
No, he did not.
What other genetic puzzles did he tackle?
Well, once he kind of figured out how single traits were inherited, he got even more ambitious.
Okay.
He started looking at multiple traits at the same time.
So like how are plant height, AD seed shape inherited together?
Exactly.
Okay.
Do they travel as a package deal or do they go their separate ways?
Good question.
Right.
What did he find?
So through even more meticulous experiments and a lot of number crunching,
Okay.
Mendel found that these traits were inherited independently of each other. Yeah.
Interesting.
The gene for height didn't care what the gene for seed shape was doing.
Okay.
They were like independent travelers on a genetic journey.
So it's not like if you get the tall gene, you're automatically stuck with the round seed gene.
No, not at all.
It's a mix and match.
Total mix and match.
Okay.
And this is what led to Mendel's second law of inheritance,
Okay.
the law of independent assortment.
The law of independent assortment.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But basically it means that different genes get shuffled around like a deck of cards during reproduction,
Okay.
creating all sorts of possible combinations in the offspring.
So it's like a genetic free-for-all with all these different traits
It is.
getting thrown into the mix,
It is a free-for-all.
creating all this diversity.
Exactly. Which is why we don't all look exactly like our parents.
Right, exactly.
Now, of course, there are some exceptions to this law.
Okay.
Scientists discovered later on that some genes are linked together.
So they're not all independent?
Right? It's like those buy one, get one free deals.
Got it.
But even with those exceptions,
Yeah.
the law of independent assortment was a major breakthrough
For sure.
in understanding just how complex inheritance really is.
So Mendel, with his pea plants,
Yeah.
his meticulous record keeping,
Meticulous.
lays down these fundamental laws of inheritance.
Dude,
Segregation and assortment.
Independent assortment.
It's wild to think that these principles discovered over 150 years ago
I know.
are still the foundation of genetics today.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a
It's
testament to the power of observation and just the elegance of nature's design.
Totally. And here's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Mendel's work didn't just explain pea plants.
No, it didn't.
It opened up this whole new understanding of life itself.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on this incredible journey with Gregor Mendel.
It's a fascinating story, isn't it?
From like a humble monk with a green thumb to the father of genetics.
Yeah, the guy whose discoveries totally revolutionized how we understand inheritance.
And it's crazy to think that those discoveries
Yeah.
didn't just stay in his monastery garden.
No, they didn't.
They had a ripple effect on like everything.
Absolutely.
The food we eat, the medicine we take, even like the frontiers of biotechnology.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Okay. I am ready for my mind to be blown.
Okay.
So where do we see the most direct impact of Mendel's work today?
Well, think about agriculture, like the foundation of our food supply.
Okay.
Mendel's laws of inheritance basically laid the groundwork for selective breeding,
Okay.
giving us the ability to enhance crops and livestock in ways that would have been unimaginable back then.
So we're talking like those super-sized strawberries you see at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Drought-resistant corn cows that produce more milk.
Exactly.
All thanks to Mendel and his pea plants.
It all goes back to those peas, you
Yeah.
know? By understanding how traits are passed down, we can select parent plants or animals with like the best characteristics and breed them to create offspring with those enhanced traits.
So it's like genetic architecture.
It really is. You're designing the next generation of food.
That is so cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's crazy to think that the same principles that govern the inheritance of like flower color in peas
Yeah.
apply to these super complex traits that make a crop more nutritious or an animal more resistant to disease.
Right. It really speaks to the universality of his discoveries. And this
Yeah.
understanding of inheritance,
Yeah.
it's revolutionizing medicine too.
But how so?
Well, now we can screen for genetic disorders,
Mm.
predict the likelihood of them being passed down,
Wow.
and even develop treatments tailored to a person's genes.
So it's like having a personalized owner's manual for your body.
Yeah, exactly. We can pinpoint those genes associated with certain diseases, assess someone's risk, and even tailor treatments to their specific genetic profile.
So it's a whole new era of healthcare, all thanks to Mendel cracking the code
Exactly.
of inheritance.
It all goes back to understanding those basic building blocks of life.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it doesn't stop there.
Oh, no, not even close.
Okay.
Mendel's work,
Mm-hmm.
it even has implications for the most futuristic science out there,
Like what?
like gene editing technologies.
Hmm.
CRISPR, you've probably heard of it.
Yeah.
This allows scientists to literally rewrite the code of life,
Ooh.
and it's built on the foundation Mendel laid.
So what can we do with that?
Well, imagine targeting specific genes, correcting errors,
Yeah.
even enhancing certain traits.
Wow.
It's like having a molecular scalpel,
Yeah.
with the potential to treat those genetic diseases and maybe even reshape the future of human evolution.
It is pretty wild to think that a monk just tending his garden in the 1800s
I know.
could have this kind of impact on the world centuries later.
It is incredible. And beyond all the practical applications, his story is just so inspiring.
And totally.
Here's a guy whose work was basically ignored during his lifetime.
Yeah.
Imagine the dedication to keep going, even without that recognition.
It makes you wonder how many other like brilliant minds and groundbreaking discoveries are out there.
All right, just waiting to be rediscovered or given the credit they deserve.
For sure. And that's why it's so important to, keep that scientific curiosity alive.
Yeah,
Support researchers who are pushing those boundaries
absolutely.
and be open to new ideas.
Especially if they come from unexpected places like a monastery garden.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive into the life and legacy of Gregor Mendel.
It's been quite the journey.
Pea plants to personalized medicine to gene editing.
And, this is just the beginning of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Mendel gave us the foundation. But genetics is always evolving.
Totally.
There are new discoveries and applications all the time.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
It really is.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
What?
If Mendel were alive today, what scientific mystery would he be most eager to unravel?
That is a great question.
What new frontiers would he be exploring with that same, meticulous curiosity and passion for discovery?
Yeah.
It's a question that reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge never really ends.
For sure.
And who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.